Well, the anticipation for a Nintendo General Direct is at a massive high right now. People are really wondering what Nintendo's plans are for this year, because keep in mind we're finishing up the third year for the Switch, and people are wondering what we could see from Nintendo, since in 2017 we had both Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey launch, and people are wondering if since the development cycle for some of those studios are coming back up, that we could start to see some newer games, some big time games, and of course we already have some rumored, like a Paper Mario or a 2D Metroid. At this point, people just want to see what Nintendo has planned for this year, for 2020. I think the latest game that we know of right now is Xenoblade, coming out in the summertime. So naturally, each week now, since just about the start of January, people have been hoping that Nintendo will show up on Twitter and announce that there is a Direct for that week. However, each week has come and gone, and there's been no general Direct being announced. We've had smaller ones, of course. We had that Smash sit down with Sakurai, and people enjoyed that. But everyone wants to see that big Direct to start off the year, right? Kick things off. Well, it looks like, at least in February, we could be looking at 2 Directs. Now, of course, everything in the video now is rumors, but it doesn't really shock me to hear that we could have multiple Directs in February, specifically because Nintendo should want to set up the rest of the year going forward, and they want to try to sell what's going to be a massive title for them this year, and that is Animal Crossing. So, where are these rumors coming from? Well, Reset Era has a user by the name of Zippo, and they decided to post that there would be 2 Directs. This is what they had to say. There are 2 Directs this month. You've already guessed what they obviously are. Not sure of the timing, but that February 20th stuff lines up for Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's not shocking to hear that there would be an Animal Crossing specific Direct. I think there is so much content in that game, specifically around just all the different customization options and things that they could be adding to the game that they have not been shown yet, that they could fill out an entire Direct. I mean, when we get anything new with merchandise, people are like scouring the images and stuff to see if there's anything new that they can pick out. Seriously, that's where we are right now with this game. So naturally, with the install size of the Switch and the fan base around Animal Crossing, there are a lot of people currently interested in that game. Seeing an easy 10 to 15 million unit seller in 2020 will start to build that hype with Animal Crossing New Horizons. So yes, a Direct, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the general one also makes sense in February with a lot of the just the rumored games currently, but also, of course, to set up the rest of the year. And if you go back to last year, we had the Direct in February, and here we are now in the first week of February. No announcement for this week, and I don't expect one this week, but next week we could see one, and I know we hear that a lot, right? Oh, it's going to be next week, it's going to be next week, it's going to be next week. Well, eventually, there will be a Direct in a week, right? At some point in time. Maybe we got to go all the way to E3, but most likely, based on the release schedule currently, it's looking kind of light after Animal Crossing. There's Xenoblade, and that's all we know of right now. And we know Nintendo likes to have some bigger games towards the end of the year, and then we still have questions about things like Bayonetta 3 and even Breath of the Wild 2. So yeah, 2 Directs in February, 1 for Animal Crossing, and then 1 for a general is not surprising to hear about, and most likely will happen. I am a little surprised that they wouldn't have done the Animal Crossing Direct in like the first week of March. That would have made some sense since it's getting closer and closer to release, just to give one big final push, get one big final bit of hype towards this thing as we get towards it. Although I think most of the people who are looking at Animal Crossing are just ready to get it right now, and they're mostly sold on it already. But yeah, a Direct would help push it just a little more over the top for that, and then a general Direct is most likely. So not a shocking rumor to hear about. We'll just have to wait for whenever Nintendo wants to announce it. But as we always say now with the Direct since the beginning of January, might be next week. So this next rumor was really funny to me. This got sent to me so many times because people were starting to get hyped at the idea of the major holiday title for Nintendo may not actually be Breath of the Wild 2 this year. And it was something that people were kicking around. You know, they're like, okay, Breath of the Wild 2 could be the 2020 holiday title that really helps to push the Switch while new hardware is releasing for the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. Nintendo said, hey, we want to compete with our software and our games this year, and they've even already shot down the Switch Pro rumors, or the big Switch revision, the mid-gen refresh for this year. So with that out of the way, we assume that they would look to push with some really big games, one of them being Breath of the Wild 2. Well, if you really look at it, Breath of the Wild or Zelda is not the best seller on the Switch right now. Neither is Pokemon. It's Mario Kart, right? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a Wii U port, is technically the best-selling game on the Switch by quite a bit. It's over 20 million units, and if you combine it with the Wii U sales, it's actually over 30. So what are the odds that this year could see Mario Kart 9? Well, if you look here, according to Sabi, it is an odd tease, all right, to see this, but this is what was getting passed around quite a bit, saying got some good words for Paper Mario from another source. We talked about that. And they also have some more specific teases on the way, which leads to Breath of the Wild 2 taking longer than anticipated back during E3 2019. So it doesn't seem to be this year's holiday release, which adds more credence to the major title I was referencing on a tweet the other day. Neither are set in stone yet, so take some salt. The more likely one has tires. Now, what would be the I guess the game that could be referenced there? That would be a Mario Kart game. What's really funny is a while ago, and not even a while ago, a couple weeks ago, we had decided, a couple of us, to get together and do a Nintendo Direct predictions video just for fun, just to kind of kick some ideas around. And I was going to release it whenever the Direct does get announced, like that day, because they usually announce it like 2 days before the Direct comes out, and I figure people are just going to be looking around to kill time until then. So it would have been fun to have like a little mini podcast where we talk about our predictions. I think it was me, Nate, Direct Feed Games, Rogers Base, and I think and Scott the Waz. We were all just kind of hanging out, kicking around some ideas, and it was a fun recording to do, and that will go out eventually. But one thing that I mentioned was, wouldn't it be interesting if Mario Kart 9 was actually released this year and shown in the Direct? And hearing from Sabi that the possibility of tires being brought up just made me kind of laugh a bit, because that was just a prediction I threw out there. Oh, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it does continue to sell well, but Mario Kart 9 would be this massive holiday boost that Nintendo would be looking for, especially if you have something like Bayonetta 3 and then maybe a 2D Metroid title, possibly, right? And then, of course, that would also be coming off of the heels of the Pokemon expansion pass that would work to continue pushing along those units. So that would actually be pretty interesting to see Mario Kart 9 be the big holiday title. I guess you could also, people are also bringing up the idea of something like Diddy Kong Racing or like an Nintendo All-Stars racing game, to where Mario Kart expands and it's like Smash Bros, but Mario Kart. That would be kind of neat as well, and that would, it still uses, I assume, most of the Mario Kart mechanics, just with a ton more characters, but maybe that's just the idea for Mario Kart 9 anyway. And we'll finish up with the last rumor here, which has to do with a PlayStation 5 launch title. Now, we know whenever a launch happens for a system, very rarely is the launch lineup great. It's usually kind of lacking. A lot of times there is at least one really big game there, and a lot of us are assuming that the PS5 will lean heavily on whatever Bluepoint is working on, which it's seeming more and more likely that it's Demon's Souls, but who really knows? I guess it could be anything at this point. But the other rumor is that instead of, I guess, like a Knack 3, which is something we joke about, maybe a new Ratchet & Clank game from Insomniac. That would actually be really cool. In fact, you can see here, this rumor, which Push Square has an article out right now for, comes from Colin Moriarty from Sacred Symbols, where he says, I feel like that's going to be a launch game, the Ratchet & Clank game that's long been in development at Insomniac. Now, apparently Colin has been talking about this for quite a while on the podcast, that there is a Ratchet & Clank game in development through Insomniac, and then it would kind of land between the two Spider-Mans, because we already know at this point, basically, that there is another Spider-Man in development. Why wouldn't there be? The first one was, one, a great game, and two, sold very, very well. So yeah, I can't even imagine. I'm sure Spider-Man on the PS5 is going to look insane, but I actually think Ratchet & Clank would be a really cool thing to see, because I just think the overall look of that would be so much different probably than what Bluepoint would show up with. It could actually show up different kind of graphical abilities of the PlayStation 5, which would be really neat to see. Now, we had Ratchet & Clank back in 2016, so it had to be about a little more than 4 years. Let's say the PS5 comes out in November and Ratchet & Clank is right there with it. that would, I think, be a pretty good development cycle for Ratchet & Clank to come out. And you know what? I like the Ratchet & Clank series, so I would love to be able to pick up a game like this in November when the PS5 launches. That's certainly one I would pick up, probably alongside of whatever Bluepoint has, and then I'm sure there'll probably be like a Gran Turismo or something after that. But if you have those titles, you know, the PS5 launch could actually be pretty good. Anyway, guys, those are some of the rumors that have been floating around that a lot of people have been sending to me. Decided to kind of put them into one large video. I figure it makes it a bit easier to kind of get all the information out there all in one shot. But let me know what you think about any of the stuff here, whether it is the 2 directs that are currently being rumored for February. Do you think that that makes sense? I mean, an Animal Crossing one seems obvious, and so does a general direct. So we are getting further and further away from these being rumors, but keep in mind, a lot of us thought there'd be a general direct in January, and we completely missed that. So who knows what's going on with these directs and what Nintendo's plans are for 2020? What about the holiday game? You think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to make it, or do you think it is a game with tires like a Mario Kart 9, and how well do you think that would sell after seeing 8 Deluxe pretty much take over the Switch's charts for sales? And then Ratchet & Clank, a PS5 launch title. Would that make you buy into the PS5? And are you a fan of Ratchet & Clank and would like to see what it could even look like with its visuals on that system? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.